Hello and welcome back to the Morningscape podcast. I'm your host, DJ Mitchell, here with Matt, Samson, Reinhardt, Moody, in one of the best jerseys I've ever seen worn. We're Wednesday, 15 game slate, 20K to first. Not a lot else on in the sports world other than hockey. I'm thankful for the opportunity to, I'm just going to go to my parents and start gambling, and they're probably going to think that that's normal and not a problem. Matt, what are you up to on this fine Tuesday evening as we're recording?
Is that is that true? Is that why the slate's larger? Is no NBA?
There's probably NBA. I didn't really look.
Oh, well.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of NBA. Wow.
Okay.
I didn't look.
You're just making shit up. Okay.
I meant important sports. So there's a lot of hockey and there's nothing. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Yeah. It's an absolute gong show out here. We went live at 9:10 p.m. and I've literally been working on this late for 2 hours because some genius thought it'd be a great idea to have a Excel accompaniment where they could just tab through as we go through the podcast and show on the YouTube channel, here's this team, here's that team. And this same asshole did not think it would take 2 hours on a 15-game slate to update before the slate started. So I'm cranky, angry, but I'm also very slightly wealthier than I was on Sunday night because Monday was an absolute smash fest for me. Now, did I scale back my volumes like half of what I normally play because, I'm sick of losing and whatever else? Yes. But did I put up, 130 with all the things I said to do pretty much hitting beyond McMichael scoring a goal and, waltz my way to a victory on Monday? Also, yes. So you take the good of the bad, but Tuesday looks pretty bad. I mean, these games have just been an absolute disaster. But what can you do? We're on to Wednesday's 15-game debacle, and yeah, I can't imagine it could possibly go wrong.
Yeah. By Monday, I flipped over the cards on the slate, and I basically just threw my phone into the garbage can. It was dead on arrival. I was the chalkiest chalk monster. Just Devils won plus Rangers won. I'm considering it, and just 20% on everybody. I just was like, this is miserable. I was mad and angry and sad, and I lost by 1 million. I think my lineup had a collective like 40 points. I didn't even look.
Seems high, honestly.
You know what? Let's actually look. I played again the Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Panarin, all these great plays that everyone and their literally everybody played. And I honestly thought they could be a little bit sneaky. Like the Rangers, I wasn't convinced. I had 57 actually. I think my goalie did good too. Yeah, I got a 16 because I had Logan Thompson, my highest scoring player other than Brett Pesce, who had 4 blocks and 2 shots. I actually don't think I had a single point in my entire lineup. No, I didn't. I didn't have a single point of like a player that got a goal or an assist. An impressive feat.
I saw an Askarov team or two that was a goalie assist because Askarov had an assist and no other points in their lineup, and yeah, that was quite funny.
Yeah, just sometimes you play well and you get punished. Sometimes you play bad and get punished, and sometimes I played bad, got punished. I was deserving of that L. I accept that L, and I'm moving on. Matt, you played smart and did not get punished. I do think that I actually play better when I try not to convince myself that my stuff isn't chalky when it might be. Like, just admit when something's going to be chalky and don't absolutely ape into both of the chalk build lineups, or chalk build lines, and you're probably better off. I learned something on Monday night, and I will take that into Wednesday where there's 15 games and hopefully nothing's going to be too massively owned. Matt, any other thoughts before we get into the game by game so we're not here for 7 hours to tackle back on that too?
No, my brain does simply not work. My brain is just mush. I'm ready to talk about these 15 games in sequential order and just slowly lose my will to exist on this planet.
That's exactly what I'm most thankful for. So perfect.
Let's get us on over to the sheet. That's right, the wonderful rainbow sheet. I can't zoom in that much because there's so many games. The verticality doesn't really work. So bear with me, but yeah, we'll just do a quick scroll through. Carolina and versus the Rangers obviously stands out. The Rangers got absolutely pummeled by the Blues, just extending their streak of games where they get just demolished, giving up tons of chances. I can't believe they're as good record wise as they are. You kind of zoom out from the real NHL with fantasy and all that. And it just feels like they're one of those teams that's like disappointing this year. And even, their beat writers, their fans are like, yeah, this team is garbage. Like, and it's like, oh, they're safely in a playoff spot. They're like one of the best teams in the best division in the NHL. Like, no problem. And like, yeah, there's clearly warning signs. It's not looking good for them right now. But yeah, Carolina in a good spot. Interested to see if they catch any ownership after demolishing Dallas, in all honesty. Really high event, fun game there. Elsewhere, we have Tampa versus Washington. We talked a bit about Washington's mismatch between their process and their results on Monday and how that might be a little fake and that Washington's actually good. So Tampa coming off an 8 spot against Colorado. Decent matchup. We actually do get a few more fun spots down here. No other real green spots on the slate, which again, this is sort of hard coded. It's not like just relative to the slate, but relative to like league averages. But the Philly Nashville game looks all right. Dallas Chicago, Dallas of course looks pretty decent. And even Columbus taking on a back-to-back Montreal team has an above-average matchup as well, ever so slightly by all the metrics, expected goals, Corsi's, and actual goals. So, yeah, it's a 15-game slate. It's a disaster. I won't be referencing the rainbow chart too much more. Just check in on Wednesday evening if you would like to see the final form. But we'll just go through team by team and quickly note on the important things to know for this 15-game monster slate. First game, Minnesota Buffalo. DJ, floor is yours.
Yep, Matt, you were wrong. Kirill Kaprizov did play on Monday night after you were adamant and frankly going against the chat to say that he would not play. But that was very rude of you, and you were frankly not punished if you played him, if you didn't play him, because he didn't really do anything. But he will be more than likely, unless there was some sort of a setback we don't know about, in the lineup against Buffalo, expecting him with Eriksson Ek and Matt Boldley. Marco Rossi and Faber, as you point out, are on the top power play. Buffalo's been good. They returned Tage Thompson. I don't have a lot of interest in stacking Minnesota, but then again, I don't think many people are going to go here. Eriksson Ek is at 6K, but Boldley plus Kaprizov is an exorbitant amount of your salary cap. I guess the question is, if you're playing Minnesota, if that's just at the end of the day, you say, you know what, they're going to have low ownership. Kirill Kaprizov is an absolute monster. It seems like he's healthy. Are you going all the way with the top line?
Well, honestly, I kind of expect these lines to change after they lost 4-1. I don't know. That doesn't really matter.
Right. So let's say it's Eriksson Ek or Rossi. Does it make a big difference? Like,
yeah,
the money is enough, but
I would think something like Kaprizov, Rossi, Ryan Hartman would be of interest. I'm guessing Boldy and Eriksson Ek will stay together, but again, we'll see. Yeah, this is one of those spots where coming off a loss, no practice. They played fine. I think it was more Winnipeg dependent, and I have a note that I'll mention when we get to Winnipeg. But they put up 4 expected goals and got 1 goal because Connor Hellebuck. But I don't know. I'm not that interested in this spot, and that's just because 15 games. Why would I choose to root against the Buffalo Sabres, who are just playing fine? I mean, Minnesota's not playing out of this world good. It's going to be slow paced, and Buffalo's fine. Why would I spend all my money here? It just seems like an easy pass for me. The Buffalo side, we're getting Tage back, but the prices don't really make me interested. There's some oddity, like Jack Quinn feels like he'll be a healthy scratch here, which is a little strange. I thought he was one of the Sabres' better players in San Jose. He actually looked like he was competent at hockey and able to move the puck up and down the ice, which has been rare for Mr. Jack Quinn this season. So maybe he slots in somewhere here. I'm not positive, but the lines are a mess. The power play units are a bit of a mess. If you want to spend if you want to spend 13.4 on Paterka Thompson, go right ahead. But what do you have for us here?
Well, you have Peyton Krebs twice on there, which is interesting. I'm not sure
Do
if that's
I?
good.
Is this
Yeah.
Sam Lafferty then? I don't know.
It's probably Lafferty. Yeah.
You know, it's all
It doesn't.
It's Sam Lafferty. God,
Anyways,
what a disaster.
Yeah, this game is a 6 over under. Minnesota slight favorite on the road in Buffalo at -130. It's a low total. I mean, again, like you're playing this game because of if you find something that makes you think there's enough upside, which again, I just think it's more on the Minnesota side, to be honest, than the Buffalo side. But then again, I don't love the matchup for Minnesota. So I don't think I'm going to end up here, but I do think it's both, like it's going to be low owned. It's 15 games.
Yeah,
so it's just like, what's the point? Everything's going to be low owned. That isn't the absolute chalk of the chalk. And there's like 4 chalkier spots. So I don't know. I don't really see anything.
Actual tout, Yuri Kulik and Jason Zucker. They are a combined 6,500, both on the power play. Zucker's on the top power play, been shooting. Kulik is on the second power play, also has been shooting when he's gotten the role. If Jack Quinn's truly being scratched, it's because, they're like, hey, this guy is actually pretty good. Sabres clearly have a fourth line that is, a fourth line with Malenstein, Lafferty, and Abe Kubel. So yeah, I think that's an okay way to fully punt here. That's it.
I'd agree. And Brian McLeod at center might not be worth paying for at 3,600, but he does help both of his line mates at 5-on-5 to be more productive.
By not shooting, yes.
By not shooting, exactly. So yeah, I think that's fair enough. There's a nice little punt for you, but not a ton of interest in this game. I'm down to move on to the Jim Montgomery-led St. Louis Blues.
It's over, Devils. DJ. You already said Matt Boldley, so you just say whatever you want.
That was a word typo. I didn't say it. It was like a typo thing. That was but spell check got me out loud.
Okay. Yeah, St. Louis. Turns out Montgomery fixed it. He's the best. They crushed the Rangers. And they did so by basically swapping Kyrou and Neighbors, not new lines necessarily, but Bolduc, Holloway, Sundqvist was a new line. They did really well. I want to say it was like 90% expected goals on the night, which in part due to the Rangers no longer having a third line of note. Like they had that really good third line, but with their injuries sort of condensed it down to a top 6 that was useful. So I'm sure that was part of why they had such a good night. But New Jersey is going to be without Timo Meier. So like if you're really looking to punt, again, not saying it, oh yeah, definitely do this, but Bolduc and Holloway are super cheap. They did really well last game. And New Jersey projects, well, they definitely will be without Timo Meier. And I'm guessing that means Mercer slides back into the top 6, leaving like Howla, Tatar, Cotter, third line, not anything that I want to target necessarily, but certainly not the end of the world if you just need a cheap mini to make something else work. But the primary interest here would, of course, be on the Devils or on these top 6 forwards. So what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Bolduc had 10 shot attempts in that game against the Rangers.
That's pretty good.
16 minutes of ice time. It's as if, again, I mean, the problem with St. Louis was Bannister was actively making them less fun. And the players were even saying that, like Busnevich was literally quoted as essentially saying that they weren't being creative. They weren't trying to drive offense. They were playing better defensively, etc. You can look up the quotes. It turns out that giving some of your more gifted, I guess shooters in Zach Bolduc more ice time, etc., will help to bolster. So I do think that that's at least something to look into. I mean, they won that game. They were in the lead for a decent majority of it. And I guess Montgomery's at least going to let his players that are playing well continue to play. Like Holloway and Bolduc were, third and fourth and forwards among getting ice time. The second unit has them together. I think there's worse pairs in the world than putting them out there. I don't know if I'm going the Perunovich route. 15 minutes, a little bit concerning, but there is like this unbelievably cheap triple, but on a 15-game slate, it feels a little thin. I just don't think I'm going anywhere else here. On the St. Louis side. I would at least take a look at that. But yeah, getting over to the Devils, I'll let you kick it off. Anything with Timo coming out that gets you thinking?
Yeah, there's nothing confirmed here, so it's all sort of just guesswork on my part, but it makes sense for Mercer to slide up the hat trick. Nico, obviously, coming off that, could get more ownership than he had the previously. I think he was 2.5% to New Jersey won like 20% against Nashville. That could even out, could not though. Nason though, Mercer, they're both super cheap, so that full line stack is 13.5K. Certainly worse ways to go about it. We mentioned Brett Pesce last show. He's still sub 3K. He, his role doesn't change, of course, without Timo, but like I'm pretty sure now it's 5 of 6 where he's gotten the blocks bonus. Like he's just going to do enough to get you possibly double digits. He'll almost never get you, say, 20. But you're just looking for a playable score to make the the superstars work in your lineup for that price tag. And then of course the star of the show, Hughes, Bratt. They have Andre Palat, who could get a second power play job with Timo out. That's who I currently have, like, quote unquote, replacing him. But yeah, it's not for sure, and doesn't really matter. Like if you're playing Palat with Hughes and Bratt, you need Hughes and Bratt to score 3 times anyway. So like you're kind of hoping that he gets involved in like one of those at 5-on-5 or something. But yeah, I don't have a ton of interest in this game in all honesty. Like I saw the New Jersey 1 chalk on Monday, and it's like, yeah, it's probably not going too far down given they're probably as big of favorites, if not bigger favorites.
Yeah, minus 230. It's a 6
Yeah.
over under favorite on that over. So I still think they'll be at least a bit piled on with Timo coming out. It might even lend more to the Hughes Bratt situation. I mean, they've been fantastic. Like one bad game isn't gonna change too many people's minds. So yeah, I think that could get piled on. Palat makes it cheaper, and the defenseman, there's a number of punts, including Luke Hughes as well. We talked about both of them last time, but I could definitely see people taking another look at Pesce, who has had, like you said, 3 games in a row with double-digit fantasy points without getting a point. If he gets 1 assist, his first of the season, it would be, he could get up closer to that 20 mark, I think, and you're really looking at putting the slate away. They'll be popular. Another team that will be popular is not probably going to be the Rangers, but the team they play. But let's get over there to New York, where the Will Coolies are back again, but this time playing Carolina. So is there anything you want to mention off the hop about the Rangers in, I believe, the highest total? 6.5. Well, it's tied. I mean, it's right around the same for the 6.5. 6.5 minus 105.
Yeah, I mean, check in on the status of Chris Kreider. I'm guessing
He's traveling. He's traveling with the team. Kind of made it seem like he wouldn't play, but was not confirmed. They said day to day.
Yeah, so that would obviously change things dramatically, but of course, Cooley continues to do very well. If you just total up the last 10 games of these two lines, you look at it like point per dollar wise, the second line is clearly superior, but like you're not playing against Carolina on a 15 game slate. I'm sorry to break that news to you. This Berard character seems like a pretty good player. He doesn't have much draft pedigree. He was the 4th, 5th rounder in 2020, but he did pretty well on the AHL level, had a bunch of shots. So, 2,500 with a secondary power play role. If you wind up on this, it's fine. I certainly can't say it's the worst stack in the world. But yeah, I just don't think you need to go this cheap in this matchup. And obviously the top line gets a whole lot worse with the Carolina matchup. So any other notes before we talk about Carolina's changes?
I mean, the biggest reason to play the Rangers is a reason I never play a team is because they have one goalie who has an .854 save percentage and is, I believe, 5 starts in Spencer Martin, and a second goalie in Yaniv Peretz, who has never played an NHL game. I don't believe. He's been pretty bad at the AHL level from what I saw, but comes in as a pretty good NCAA goalie at Quinnipiac. But like, man, it feels entirely goalie driven if you're going to be playing the Rangers. not to say it could work. And there's some cheap pieces here that you could at least take a second look at, as you mentioned. But I don't think I'm going to spend all of my cap on that top line in New York. But it's at least of note that the goaltending is truly that bad in Carolina right now, and Dallas took massive advantage of it to give themselves a chance to be in winning lineups last late. So getting over to Carolina, if you're ready, anything else you want to say on that? Or probably good.
Nope.
Yeah,
we
switched
got
stuff
we
up.
got to keep the pace up.
Yeah, they switched things up. Seth Jarvis up to the Aho line with Jack Roslovic, Svechnikov on the opposite wing of Nachos with Jack Drury. Man, I could go either way here. I really could. I like Jack Drury a lot. I know you like it maybe even more than me. Is he related to Chris Drury? Why am I not remembering that? I feel like yes, right? No,
I couldn't tell you.
it doesn't matter. I'm sure it doesn't matter. But both lines are interesting. Roslovic at 4K makes it.
Yeah,
Is that
it's his
prohibitive
uncle.
enough? I thought it was his uncle. That's exactly what I was going to say. And then I was like, I don't want to sound stupid on my own podcast. I've never done that before. All right, look, here's the question. Let's just say that for whatever reason you want to play the top line, Aho Jarvis. Are you throwing in Jack Roslovic? Vitch?
I don't man, I just don't think he's very one. I'm not playing the top line. I'm playing the second line all day because
Yeah, I know.
it's a little cheaper. Actually, is it a little cheaper? 16.3,
I mean,
16. No, it's
Jack,
500 more. But at the end of the day, I'm going down with the Marty Nachos ship once he gets away from Eric Robinson. Like once you've shown me that you can be one of the best players in the NHL with Eric Robinson on your wing, you pretty much have a hall pass to do whatever the hell you want. Just come on down, enter my lineups, and just he made hay against Dallas. Yeah, it took some lineup finagling for Carolina to really take off, but ultimately Jarvis worked out for me. Drury worked out, because he was cheap, and Nachos smashed. So yeah, I'm going back to the Drury well and just replacing Jarvis with Svechnikov. In all honesty, Roslovic is just fine. I
yeah.
can't I much prefer Gostisbehere for 4K versus Roslovic for 4K if I'm stacking the first line. Gostisbehere I think is in a good spot.
So how many goals and how many assists does Jack Roslovic have? Do you know off the top of your head?
I think he's like 9-0 or something.
12-1.
12-1, yeah.
Going for the Cy Young. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know if that means oh, you can't play him, but he's going up in price. It's not 2,800 anymore like Jack Drury. It's getting up to 4K, and there is a very decent chance that Jarvis and Aho get there without him. I mean, obviously, if he scores, whatever, you know what I mean? You'll be fine. His rates are good. I think it's, I'm here or there on it. I do agree. I think I like the second line more. If I'm going to do it, I do think more people are going to see the Seth Jarvis value and kind of run to the podium. Whereas I think the Jack Drury value is actually just as good to keep you in a very good situation with what I think are higher upside players, especially Svechnikov and Nachos. So I'm in on that. Anything on the defensive side before we move on?
No, I'll just reiterate the Gostisbehere thing. And basically the way that it seems like it's working out is that Orlov and Chatfield play with the Aho line. The shutdown pair, like Jacob Slavin plus Jordan Stahl, is sort of their shutdown unit. So I would project they go out against the top line of the Rangers. Carolina 1 would go out against the second line, leaving Drury, Svechnikov, Nachos against Rangers 3, which we just saw Zach Bolduc, nuke against. So that's sort of where my mindset is there. I just think it makes a ton of sense from a process standpoint, from a matchup standpoint. That it's a little disheartening that they are actually going to have a high team total, just given it's Carolina, but they were very low on last slate against Dallas. Maybe the Rangers with Igor, have a little bit of they can keep ownership down, I think, on this 15 gamer and not get to 15%, where I'd be like, you know what, I don't need to play 12% on Jack Drury or whatever. I just don't think that's coming our way. So let's get over to Calgary, Detroit. Calgary, guessing they don't make changes given they've played pretty well, but they took 9 penalties against Ottawa, wound up losing. So changes could be in order. Again, not overly expected. But against Detroit, I mean, you got to at least consider it. Guys like Coronado and Sharangovich, their prices just are not going up as their production does. So yeah, I could get on board with some Calgary. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's the Coronado night when I don't play him. Not Coronado, I mean Sharon Govich night when I don't play him. But honestly, both of them. I don't think Coronado. Well, he got an assist. It doesn't matter. Um, I'm considering it. I'm considering it for sure. That's the line I'm considering. I'm honestly not afraid to play Mikael Backlund either with it. I do think that is just a cut above all the rest of their lines. Backlund did get a ton of minutes, but as you mentioned, they were on the penalty kill a lot. But who's out there other than Backlund and Sharon Govich when they go on the penalty kill, and who's out there when they go on the power play? Sharon Govich, because I think he's one of their best players. I'm interested in that line for sure. It's gonna definitely make my queue. There's a lot of cheap lines, but this might be right up there with the best of them. So if you are looking for a punt, fully correlated, not quite power play, but I don't think it makes the biggest difference in the world. Like Detroit is so exploitable anywhere that I think it's totally fine to throw, Backlund. And he had 5 shots on goal. He's hit the bonus on shots in 3 of his last 4 games. Just hasn't really been rewarded with the points, only as 1 being, a goal in that mix. But if it all kind of comes together against Detroit, who would be surprised? So it's definitely in my kind of core group of things I'm considering. 3 guys that have rates to back up the potential of them kind of nuking all together, and we did just see it, and I still don't even think it's going to be all that owned but nuking all together. Sharon Govich got there, but everyone else was a little bit quiet, even though they probably shouldn't have been. So yeah, I'm interested.
Well, that's bad news because that means it's going to be the 15% on Donkey Chalk of the night.
Hee-haw.
Because this Detroit side is just not it. Patrick Kane not playing. It sounds like he's possibility for Wednesday, but yeah, we need to check in on that. They actually changed up a decent amount more than just filling in someone for Kane. They moved Casper back down to a line of Berggren and Veleno, Rasmussen, Kopp, Fisher, Tyler Mott, JT Comfort, Alex DeBrincat. My interest here is solely on that top line. Vladimir Tarasenko is also on the top power play at 3,100. So this full line, fully power play correlated, comes in at 14.5K against Calgary. I don't think both sides of this game can be owned. Like, I was kind of wrong in that the Detroit and the Islanders both had like 8% on, well, actually, the Islanders had like 20, 15, 20. But even Detroit was like 8% in that game. So maybe this game actually does have just a ton of cumulative ownership. But even then, 15 games versus 11, like Monday, I'm not sure how different, how different that could be. All that to say, I'll be monitoring this closely. But again, I just don't want to be playing like the cheapish lines into significant ownership. I managed to find my way off of it for Islanders 2 on Monday, which I like significantly more than Tarasenko, Larkin, Raymond. But if it looks like the field's overlooking it or overvaluing Calgary's resurgence, then of course I'll be at the front of the line to bet against Calgary. So field dependent, but let's get to Washington, Tampa. Great job by our boys in Washington, cashing the Morningscape Pod, our money line bets. Now that I donkey it up with a McMichael same game parlay plus McMichael goal plus Washington win, you bet I did. So I didn't make any money off of it, but karma paid me back with a top
the
5
morning
finish.
skate way. 6 shots on goal, no goal, 4 goals for the Washington Capitals. They get the win. Ho hum, yeehaw. We move
Absolutely.
on. This is one of the highest totals on the slate, 6.5 plus 105. Tampa minus 148, not really monster favorites like we saw at the Florida Panthers. So this is an interesting game. It's cheap. I'll stop talking. You were kind of running, I think, so I'll let you get back to running with it.
Well, what I was going to run is that you mentioned McMichael shot a ton, and that's a really I'm not going to say, oh, I told you so, because it wasn't really on the power play. I think they only had 1 power play opportunity, but Chychrun actually scored on the power play. And it was from the exact spot you'd expect him to be, like that dead center point spot. So McMichael Chikrin, that little Carlson Ovi type stack is a little bit cheaper than that stack would be. Of course, Carlson exists in that Ovi spot. Since he's not Alex Ovechkin, I kind of wonder if he'll get frozen out. And that Chikrin's actually the guy you're going to want for 1,000 cheaper. So I prefer Chikrin very slightly, but yeah, I think that McMichael is going to make my consideration set once again. This Tampa team is very good. Like they put the boots to Colorado, but at the same time, Annunen was just horrific. Like Brandon Hagel does not get 4 assists in the first period if your goalie's playing, all that well. So I'm a little bit this Washington team just sort of has broken the expected goals all year long. And McMichael is just actually goading it up. 13 expected fantasy points per game over his last 10. He's only getting better. And I still believe that he'll only improve that as he takes over more of this offense without Alex Ovechkin to sort of soak up shots, which of course are not goals, which McMichael's getting plenty of. But the shooting volume, I think, will continue to rise for him. So anything you want to add to that?
I mean, I think that you could reasonably play like McMichael and Strome in a lineup. Probably would want to include one of those defensemen. I kind of tend to agree that it's probably Chikrin. Like, I think you could do that. I don't think you have to tether yourself to the 5-on-5 lines entirely, but you could also just
honest
play it
question.
skinny.
Like, why do you prefer Dylan Strome over Pierre-Luc Dubois? Because I know the power play, but Pierre-Luc Dubois is 3,400. He's been incredible. He has not scored a goal yet. So he's not scored a 5-on-5 goal yet this year, I believe. I don't know. There's something in there. I saw something weird about his stat line so far, but he's actually getting some really good looks and just not getting the finishing to go with it for 2,900 less. Like, I don't know that I have much interest in Dylan Strome without his line mates.
It's because I'm a coward and I have no conviction. And I'm just, I'm honestly, like, in reality, I probably won't end up on Washington. And I think it's a sharper play. And the fact that I don't think I'm going to end up on Washington, I might reconsider tomorrow because that means that they're going to be 0% owned. So you should probably consider Washington because they're actually in a good spot. They're actually good. They're difficult to play, and people probably just won't play them. So maybe it's just McMichael plus Chikrin, and you move on, or maybe you throw in Pierre-Luc Dubois, or maybe you throw in Dylan Strome. Any way you do it's honestly fine. I don't think you're probably fine any way you cut it up.
Okay. So I heard something on some podcast, and I cannot remember it. Again, my brain is mush. This is almost hour 3 of me thinking through this slate and doing shit for the slate. But last game, Dubois was on the ice for the most 5-on-5 expected goals on the team. I don't remember. I had what was said on this podcast. I don't even remember which podcast it was. It was just something in my ears like 2 hours ago. And I don't remember it. I'm sorry. If I think of it, I'll share it in the Discord. But basically, like, Dubois has been unbelievable, and like, he's not really getting the credit for it because McMichael's just taking all the shine. But like, they've actually been their most dynamic play driving duo at 5-on-5. And they get a 2,500 Taylor Radish with them, who is on a power play unit. Like, yeah, Taylor Radish isn't going to do much all that often, but can he chip in a goal every couple of games to make it worth a $12,000 line stack for a line including Connor McMichael, who's like one of the best players in the NHL so far? I think so. I think that makes sense. I'm very interested in that cheap Washington stuff. On the Tampa front,
a lot of luck over to Tampa.
On the Tampa front, Brandon Hagel had 4 primary assists in his 5 assist game. Very impressive stuff. He's almost past Kucherov in his expected fantasy points per game over the last 10. Sure seems like Tampa's going to leave their 11-7 intact, meaning Kucherov you can play as a one-off. Honestly, I guess you can just play Brandon Hagel as a one-off. I mean, I wouldn't, but like I'm an idiot, I suppose, because yeah, it would have worked. Yeah, Kucherov is shooting a bunch. He's obviously playing with both Hagel, Sorelli, and Point Gensel. So yeah, same cautions apply. Point and Gensel aren't shooting, but guess what? Goals count for 10. You don't need to shoot a ton to get goals. You just need to shoot once to get one goal. So when you can do that, it's a great gig. And there's absolutely nothing else on this team that's even like close to relevant. So like, yeah, it's spend up through the nose or nothing on Tampa in a decent spot for them.
Yeah, it's a decent spot. I don't know. I just hate Brandon Hagel. If I bet on him, if I play him, he gets 1.3, and I didn't. I'm not gonna say I didn't consider Tampa. That was actually something that I did toy around with, like how could I fit them in, and I just couldn't. They were so expensive, and yeah, I mean Tampa did get there, and it was just frustrating to be like, man, I actually almost played it and didn't. And I know if I would have played it, Brandon Hagel would have probably passed, all 5 of those into shin pads or something. But it's both sides of this game are fine. It's a high total. I don't think it's going to garner a lot of ownership, and that's the way it is. It's pretty easy to play either side with how you want to play it. Toronto and Florida, another game that like on paper, seems fine. It's a 6 over under. Florida, a slight favorite. We're very unlikely getting Austin Matthews back. It sounds like he's close, but I would be pretty shocked. He practiced, but they kind of made it seem like he wouldn't play. You have him in here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm expecting him to play based on what I was reading.
Okay, we both read different things then. I read something that said that the coach basically alluded to the fact that he wasn't at game speed yet, but I guess he's off the Matthews.
No,
I don't know.
You might be right. His own quotes make Mark Masters think he might need another game. So,
I say 50-50 is fine by me though. I'm good with splitting that down the middle.
Yeah, if Matthews, so the reason this is relevant is that Florida's in a bit of a tailspin. They obviously they lost to Washington, but that's like far from their worst loss, and I think they're 1-6 in their last 7. That includes like a loss to Chicago. It's not going very well for them right now. So Toronto is going to be of some interest. If Matthews were to miss, Fraser Minton was on the top power play for 2,500. He actually looks almost 10 expected fantasy points per game. I'm gonna guess that's one game. Let me check before
I was gonna say 2, but
yeah, 2 games, 4 shot attempts per game. So yeah, it's there if Matthews doesn't play. I will be alongside Nylander at 5-on-5 and on the 5-on-5 and on the power play. And interestingly, without Matthews, Nylander was like straight double shifting on the power play for 7,600. That's pretty interesting. Anytime you can get a guy doing the OV thing or the pasta thing, where they're just like out there for all 2 minutes of a power play, clearly the puck's going to go through him. So it just tells you if Toronto scores any power play goals in this spot, William Nylander's almost certainly getting a point. And that's pretty fun. You don't need to guess which unit, which line, whatever. It's just like root for power plays and Nylander. Cool. Okay. Tavares, Marner, McMahon, though, has been very good. I would not blame anyone for going to that direction to target this Florida side. 18.3K. McMahon's been shooting a bunch. I know he's one of your guys more so than mine. And then also Nick Roberts and Alex Nylander. Just the team is so banged up that they're getting decent roles. Their minimum salary as well. If you need a punt, this is a good spot to come fishing for a punt or two.
Yeah. No, I agree. Again, like Florida's pretty good, but I do think that there's an angle here. And again, the ownership is not going to meet it. If Toronto gets there at all, it's coming through such a small vacuum of players. And you might be thinking, well, Fraser Minton, like, yeah, there's a couple guys that might get ancillary, points here or there, but not. But like the minutes without Matthews have been incredibly high on Nylander, Marner, and Tavares. I'm interested in this spot for sure for Toronto. Mainly ownership driven, as well as the fact that there's a ton of upside. And on the other side here, Florida. Oh, sorry, what?
No, I'm just showing it, so I was just gonna say I don't trust any of this. It's
Yeah,
been blundered. Coach took the blame for all the losses, so good job, players. You did great. It's Maurice's fault. Whatever. He's just being a clown. They've not been good, so I would expect something more to change. Aaron Ekblad should not be on the power play one. Like, just put Nate Schmidt there if you have to. Bring Adam Boakfist back. Like they're going to do something to really screw this all up. Or just put Gus Forsling there. If it's not going well, like use your best defenseman in that role and just try it. Just see what happens. I don't know. I'm not even like that overexposed to him in best puck or anything, but it's very frustrating to watch like this team flail around when it's like, well, you had this guy who's doing absolutely everything for you. All your defensemen leave, and then you're like, okay, keep doing that same thing. And it's like, well, no, you can try giving him more, see what happens. But I digress. Verhaeghe down to the top power play, whatever. We'll see. We'll see about that, coach. But where are you going if, assume any of this holds or do whatever you want with Florida? Assemble your ideal Florida stack for me.
Oh God, that would be not playing them at all. What do you mean?
Great. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any interest really. It's expensive. It's a mess. Yeah, I just don't think I'm doing it. The Barkov Reinhardt thing feels like you're probably going to get incredibly low ownership for the only thing that has worked at all in recent memory. I don't think that Bobrovsky is going to continue to give up 10 goals every 2 games like he has in the past 2. Spencer Knight. Jesus, I can't even think of his first name. He really hasn't been that bad. They just seem to lose when he's in net. They just don't score for whatever reason. I don't know why they don't like him to get wins, but they don't. I'm not worried that Florida's broken as much as I am pretty, actively keeping an eye on how good Toronto has been defensively.
Yes,
Matthews. I can say one more thing just to. Austin Matthews is one of the better defensive centers in the NHL, and getting him back does not make them worse, even though people are going to try to tell you that. They're going to try to say, oh, they're better without Matt. Everyone that says that's an idiot. Matt, back to you in the studio.
But yeah, without Matthews, it's not like their 5-on-5 defensive play has been tarnished at all. It's their 5-on-5 offensive play that's just taken a nosedive. So in general, they have much less pace without Matthews. But yeah, I'm showing their defense. They're actually one of the best defensive teams since like game 10 of the NHL season. They've just been killing teams on the defensive end. So for that reason and many other reasons, not that interested in Florida, but keep an eye on it because we are expecting changes. Speaking of changes, Boston heads into Long Island fresh off of I think it was 2-0 shutout loss to Vancouver. They had about a bajillion shots. I think they had like 30-something shots to 12.
Yep, they did.
Didn't matter. They introed Mark McLaughlin to the lineup. Didn't work.
Shocking.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do. This team's not very good. The Sabres are heeing and hawing their way to a playoff spot still at the end of Tuesday's play. So we'll see if they can hee and haw their way into Wednesday's play and truly be in the playoff hunt at Thanksgiving for the first time in our lives. I don't even know at this point. It might be since the 80s that the Sabres have been any good. I don't remember. It all just washes away into nothing. But anyway, how do you see this Boston side with a 4,800 Brad Marchand just tempting me?
Do you want to guess what his expected goals number were per HockeyViz?
Oh God, like 1.8.
0.94.
He's just never.
They had 4.2 expected goals. They hit the post twice. They got 0. Lindholm 0.58. I mean, I was on it. They just got to bury a puck. I'm not going to say I'm absolutely back on it, but I am thinking about it. And I'm also thinking about Pastrnak. I don't think the Islanders are very good. They have been a team I just haven't wanted to target. They want to be boring. And it's a back-to-back for Boston. Like, people aren't going to click on it. This is as low as I think Boston could be. Yeah, the problem, the correlation, the this, the that, the other thing. If Pastrnak puts up a score you needed to have, I think Marchand and Lindholm could come along for the ride regardless. Pavel Zacha is a passenger. Morgan Geekie is useless. I'm thinking about it. I am thinking about it. what is Pasternak's ownership going to be on this 15-game slate? Like
-4%.
it's just like at some point you just have to put your stones on the table. At Pasternak, 21 minutes. Lindholm, 20 minutes. Zaka, 20 minutes. I mean, he sucks, but whatever. Marchand, 19 minutes. Kepke, 8. Beecher, 10. Kastelik, 10. McLaughlin, 10. This is the concentration of minutes in a game. Obviously, they were trailing, and obviously they were, score effects were on their side, and all these, backs against the wall on this team. They just fired their coach. They're going to continue to play this way. They're going to try to get out of this slump going into the break. I have no problem going Pasternak, Lindholm, Marchand, hoping that they get together at 5-on-5 if things go sour at all early on in the game. I'm in. I don't care.
All right. Well, fortunately for Boston, if they are trailing heading into the third period, the Islanders are their opponent. And I saw a stat in overtime, the first period and the second period combined. This year, the Islanders have allowed 30 goals in 15, 16, 17, 18, 20 games. I don't know how many games it's been for them. But they've allowed 30 goals. In the third period alone, they have allowed 33 goals. This team loves to blow third period leads. It got so bad that after the game, Patrick Waugh said he might actually change up their power plays, which, that would be nice if we could have, I don't know, Bo Horvat, Brock Nelson, Kyle Palmieri, and Noah Dobson all in the same power play. Just hear me out. Sounds crazy, I know. But that means there's a little bit of uncertainty here. The prices are still super low on the Islanders. Ownership is going to get there. I mean, they're 12.8 for Siplikov, Nelson, Palmieri. Be super mindful of the power play switches. I don't think 5-on-5 is going to change, to be honest, but I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again, I'm sure. And I'm also expecting Romanov to play. He missed last game due to a late scratch due to illness. I didn't see anything about him. If Romanov is out, then I actually might be more interested in Boston than I should be, because basically without Romanov, I think the Islanders are pretty terrible. But with Romanov, they actually have a really good top pair, and it just sort of falls into place after that. So that's something I'll be keeping an eye on. But yeah, power play changes are likely coming based on what Waugh said post game. So yeah, that's where I'll go there. Anything you want to add?
I think the Islanders suck. I'm not playing the Islanders. I think their coach is an absolute and complete donkey. I respect the Boston Bruins. I think they're better than the results are showing. Everything's pointing in that direction. This game's going to end up being 2-1. Since Boston's made that coaching change, they're, I believe, averaging 1 goal per game. Just no one's going to play it. I think it's actually potentially sharp to play the Boston Bruins tomorrow. That's all I got. Vancouver at Pittsburgh. Vancouver, who just beat Boston, we just talked about it, had about actually, Matt, guess how many expected goals did Vancouver have? I don't think
they scored 1 on swim. I'm going to go 1.4.
0.9.
That game was horrible. Like, I don't know how Boston got up to 4, in all honesty. And maybe it was the third period when I just sort of got into a zone and was just doing the Excel stuff here. But it was not a fun game. I don't anticipate this to be a very fun game either between Vancouver and Pittsburgh, in all honesty.
And it's another high total, 6.5 minus 105 on that over. I mean, I don't see it myself. I don't really see Pittsburgh finding ways to go, through this Vancouver team. I think this Vancouver team is actually pretty good. I know I just kind of shit on them a little bit, but they're kind of boring in themselves right now without JT Miller. It just kind of threw a pretty big wrench in how they're going to play. Like, I'm not really interested in this game either. I do think that Vancouver is going to see a little bit of ownership. Like, DeBrusk, Sherwood, and Pedersen is really freaking cheap. You can afford Quinn Hughes with that kind of a correlation without too much of a struggle. And people are just going to talk themselves into this Pittsburgh Penguins team being a nightmare in net. And at some point, that's just not going to continue. Like, this happens all the time. Like, goalies go through bad spells and they get out of it at points. I don't know who's going to be in net, and I don't care for Pittsburgh. I just don't think I'm going to be aping into Vancouver on a back-to-back. that it's just going to be an entire goalie based play. Although I consider the Rangers in a goalie based situation, but I don't think anyone's playing the Rangers. Like, people are going to click on Vancouver tomorrow with this correlation, with how cheap it is. Yeah, count me out on that.
Yeah, and things are gonna stay the way they were. It's just really gross to stack. I can't find anything I like personally. But yeah, I'm a little biased against the back-to-back teams on a 15-game slate. In all honesty, Pittsburgh, a new acquisition, Philip Tomasino, actually does make the slate. I think he's listed as on Pittsburgh. I'm looking at it. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So yeah, he will count. He's playing with Beauvillier and Malkin, also on the second power play unit. That makes the Malkin line 12.4K. Like, fool me once, fool me twice, fool me 684 times of getting Malkin. But that's pretty interesting to me. The, of course, star of the show, 19.3 fully correlated power play 1, line 1, Brian Rust, Sidney Crosby, Ricard Raquel. Yeah, with the Tomasino trade, with Chris Letang coming back, Owen Pickering gets into the top 4. Now, Pickering doesn't seem like he's much of a fantasy guy, but he has a lot of credential as a prospect. First game in the top 4, I believe, especially first game with Chris Letang, given he was called up when Chris Letang missed time, and now Chris Letang should be back. But yeah, I could certainly see more reason to like Pittsburgh than Vancouver here. I'll be honest, I'm going to consider hard this Beauvillier, Malkin, Tomasino thing. There's that twinge of revenge in Beauvillier. Not quite as much as, say, the Islanders would be, but, Beauvillier still played with Vancouver and was shipped off unceremoniously. We saw what a little bit of revenge could do for Jake DeBrusk, who managed to turn his, whatever, I'm guessing he had 0.014 expected goals today and scored a goal on it. So Beauvillier could do that here. But yeah, I like Pittsburgh 2. I don't think I'm finding the money to spend up for Pittsburgh 1.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a little bit too price prohibitive on Pittsburgh 1, but I don't think I'm playing this game at all. Like I said, I do think the total is going to drive a little bit of ownership. And again, Pittsburgh's only a plus 105 at home. It's not like their total is actually that low, and it's fully correlated. So, like, again, I think people are going to be looking at this game. Both goalies, again, if Slova's in it, like, it's going to be this whole goalie-driven nightmare for a boring game that if the goalies play at a replacement level, this game doesn't get there. And on a 15-game slate, I'm not that interested. I am going to say that I'm interested in the next game off the start here. We have revenge narratives. We have some players that are out that might give some bigger roles to some other guys. And we have a back-to-back Montreal team is where we're starting. They're coming off an overtime loss as Sergachev buried them in OT. They were without Mike Matheson, which moved Lane Hudson up to the top power play. Didn't do much, but 3,500 if that does stick, which we do not know. Matheson was a bit of a surprise lower body injury, but it's a back-to-back right before a break. Probably doesn't play, but you never know. These are, these hockey players are hockey players, and if he's good to go, he'll probably go. Lane Hudson's been fine, 11 assists in over 20 games. Of course, when I bet him to get a couple on Tuesday, he does nothing. Might give it another look tomorrow. It's not the best play in the world. 3,500 is fine though. But if you're playing Montreal, I think you throw him in. So
yeah,
all that being said, yeah.
That's all for Lane Hudson. He's not going to add enough shots wise to be like a one-off candidate. If Lane Hudson's getting 3 points, you can bet your ass that one of Caulfield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky, or Doc are just smashing their price tags. So I think if Matheson misses, the biggest beneficiary would actually be Kaden Gooley. I meant to check what their power plays looked like in this game. Yeah, Kaden Gooley got second power play time. So that's the big, I think that's the big one, because Gooley actually does have a profile of like blocking shots and being like a donkey chucker from the blue line. And he's only a few hundred more. It's not a great play for 4,100, but if you like the matchup, if you're playing, if you're playing that in your portfolio or whatever, and don't want to just play Hudson as a one-off, I think Gooley as a one-off is just fine because he gets the same sort of role boost.
And yeah, they played together at 5-on-5 and they saw 26 minutes. funny enough, it's like almost exactly the amount of time Gooley got on the penalty kill, Lane got on the power play. So kind of a funny little like tweak there. But Gooley was on the second unit, didn't get much run on that second unit, but yeah, that is interesting. So a bit of a different way of looking at things. I kind of, I guess, agree with you though that Gooley does feel a bit more one-offy if you were going to go that way, and no one's going to look at it that way just because the blocks bonus is so in play. And like if he gets a blocks bonus and a point, you could get there. Lane Hudson, gets 5. It probably doesn't matter much. Interesting to see, and Caulfield's coming down a bit in price. Suzuki, I think at 5K is totally fine. So I have no problem with stacking Montreal here.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's my preferred route. I do have a little bit of interest in Columbus if you're ready, but is there anything else before we go?
Yeah. Nick Suzuki was 6K earlier this year. So 5K against Columbus. Now Columbus isn't the same matchup that, we might have thought they would be at the beginning of the year, but like just keeping that long-term outlook in mind, I think is pretty smart. Dvorak and Gallagher are the only 2 guys I'll mention after that. I'm sure Jimmy will complain in the Discord that I'm stealing his bit or whatever because he stacked them on this 2-game slate. But Dvorak has been legitimately impressive. Gallagher correlated with him at 5-on-5. But Dvorak also kills penalties, so his minutes are safe regardless of what happens here. He's been doing some stuff, 8 expected points per game, only 7 actual, but for 2,500, even that 7 number is really strong. So another punt option if you need it. On the Columbus front, Voronkov, Monahan, Marchenko should stick. We saw Chinikov, Fantilli, and Kent Johnson. So loading up that second line with Cole Sillinger out. And then the third and fourth lines, Van Riemsdyk, Corrali, LeBanc, Aston Reese, Danforth, Olivier. That line 4 will play more than we want it to.
Yep.
But as you're going to allude to, the top 6 is the top 6, and it looks pretty nice. So where are you looking on Columbus?
I mean, I feel like I'm looking to both. You may have noticed in this entire mix, there was no Cole Sillinger. He'll be out tomorrow, which does kind of, I think, maybe solidify the top 6 a little bit more with everything else kind of being a much more of your grinders and checkers. And even though that Corrali, LeBanc, Van Riemsdyk line actually done okay for themselves, it's really not in play, in my opinion. I just continue to go the Voronkov, Monahan, Marchenko line with Zach Werenski. I think again, it's like one of those things where Zach Werenski is expensive enough to where I think you would assume like you have to do it, but I mean, he has 9.2 attempts per game over the last 10. That's a full shot attempt per game over anybody else. That next guy up, Cale Makar, a defenseman in his own right. But, I think you jam Werenski. Like if this Columbus team on a 15-game slate puts up a score you had to have, I think he's coming along for the ride no matter what. Dante Fabro, also a guy that I could consider. Like if you play Werenski, I think you can still play Fabro, eat up all of your defensive role there. But Fabro's playing tons of minutes, back-to-back blocks bonus, scored against Carolina. That's probably not going to happen too often. But I do think there's a chance he shoots the puck a bit, just with the amount of ice that Werenski should be able to take up. And, like teams have to start focusing on him for shooting. Like I think Fabro isn't afraid to shoot. And with the role being as high as it is, it's interesting. Is he going to continue to kind of outperform as expected? Probably not, but playing with Zach Werenski can kind of help in that capacity. And we might still be getting a little bit of before his role got increased by the magnitude of 2 in time on ice, like literally going from 10, 12 minutes to 25 minutes. Now that he's over in Columbus does help. So I'm interested in this. And again, you could play this cheaper too. If you like the Chinikov, Fantilli, Kent Johnston line, I don't think that's inherently wrong. I just think that the price coming down a bit and Voronkov still being what I believe is an excellent value just kind of leads me back in the direction of the top line. But I'll let you tell me what your thoughts are, because I do like this a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, you covered the top line. You covered Werenski. So, Kent Johnson was really good. He came back. He has 3 shots in 2 games. So not overwhelmingly good or anything. I'm just checking the game logs to make sure there's not like a 7 shot attempt game in there that would maybe change the way I'm perceiving things. Yeah, okay, he has 3 shots, but it's on 9 shot attempts. So you're saving 2,000 by playing Chinikov, Fantilli, Kent Johnson, and honestly, I think that's more talent on that line than Voronkov, Monahan, Marchenko. Whether the talent works, like obviously the Monahan Marchenko combo has been truly dominant, like territorially so far, and Voronkov hasn't heard that. So like that's something to consider. But you're saving 2,000, potentially getting more talent. You're sacrificing some power play as well. But I don't know. I like getting Kent Johnson in the mix, maybe slightly more. You're
Yeah.
less needing to play Zach Werenski because they could do well at 5-on-5, and they're not going to be glued to Zach Werenski and have to spend all that money on a defenseman. Not saying Werenski's a bad play, but just how you structure your rosters, I think that could be a consideration I make against a back-to-back Montreal team that we certainly don't think is very good on defense. So Philly at Nashville. Pointed this game out as a pretty fun one based on the trends. What is the money line and Vegas total say about this game?
5.5. It's a -125 on the over, but still one
That's
of our
wrong.
lowest totals.
Yeah.
Right there with Boston and the Islanders, and then it's a Nashville -185. So Philly is expected to get not many goals per the sports book, which will definitely keep their ownership down. Is that right or wrong? I don't know. There's options here for Philly, but definitely not going to be your highest implied total. And again, I don't think they're going to meet many of the projection models. So, yep, Michkov's sub 4K. I think that's where I go. And I could take a look at him and Frost as a cheaper pairing. Do I play Owen Tippett? Do I not play Owen Tippett? Well, the coach doesn't seem to really want to play him, so I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Michkov one-off, move on. Michkov Konechny, just play the good players. That's fine. I could even play Frost. I'm not playing Tippett, like you said. The minutes just aren't there, so it's just more risks that I'm willing to take on. Like, yeah, it's risk. If Michkov doesn't score, he buries you. But like that's true with most players on a 15 gamer, and I will just bet on not only the player, but like I was showing earlier, but I'll just go back to it real quick. This matchup, the expected goals index, like it's actually one of the better 5-on-5 games on the slate. Nashville's not scoring at 5-on-5, which hurts things, and the Flyers are the Flyers. So like, Saros, etc. But it's not like this game is a wasteland. The 5.5 is just frankly wrong. If you want to run back the Washington money line bet, I will go Nashville Philly over for you, over 5.5. If you're getting -125, like you said, totally fine by me. Adding to that, Emil Andre, decent role, 3,400 playing with Sandheim. That's gonna switch. He and Cam York pretty much, flip off. And again, see what they run in morning skate or whatnot. They did technically lose to Vegas. But yeah, assuming these all hold, I'm mostly just on the Michkov train. 3,800 is ridiculous. And once again, you can stack it up with some Nashville pieces who continue to look pretty good at cheap price tags. So yeah, maybe the total keeps players away from this.
Yeah, on the Nashville side, it's kind of funny how we were like, oh, one off Michkov. I mean, one off Jonathan Marchessault, anybody at 4,500? Like, I don't like Tommy Novak. I was a noted not Tommy Novak guy. I think Marchessault was at least, I don't know what his ownership came in at, but it seemed like there was a little bit of buzz around him at 4,400 against the Devils as a bit of a one-off guy, and he burned people after, the 25 he put up against Winnipeg. I have no problem going back to him here. I think that is more than fine. I wonder if the role doesn't continue to stay at that 19 minute mark, and certainly he's going to stick on that top power play. And like, it's just such a mess down the middle that maybe he finds some ice time with, he's good at the ice time with Roman Josi, no matter what, because Roman Yosi's out there all night. Half the game is basically Roman Josi watch. So going to spend up on defense. I don't think that's going to be very popular. We kind of talked about how it messes with your roster construction to play Zach Werenski, who's just kind of outplaying Roman Josi, at least being equivalent to Roman Josi, which is a huge, huge high bar to clear. I could see a situation where if you play Marchessault, you play Roman Josi, that could be a unique way of capturing a ton of upside here. I don't think it's like, again, the total is going to keep this down. The line of 3 is kind of what the projections are, I assume, going to look at as far as Marcus, though. And I wonder if that doesn't also kind of hurt with implied projection, when in reality, he's getting just as much time as anyone else that's, your Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Stamkos. So I liked even just going with the 2 one-offs and building a high correlated lineup elsewhere. So there's options here. It's an interesting game that isn't going to see a lot of ownership. We still have a few chalk spots to get to, and we've gone through a lot.
Yeah, I think it might be time to just alpha jam Nashville 1 and just keep doing it until it hits. 15K is as low as we've ever seen it. Just play it with Yossi, play it with Michkov, run back. Like, just that seems like a pretty simple strategy. Just betting on this game being a bit of a bonanza. That the kids are home for Thanksgiving. It's going to be rowdy on Broadway. All the signs are pointing to Nashville just being an absolute banger of a spot. I'm not going to get cute and play the power play only Stamkos or the Tommy Novak dependent Marchessault. Again, if this line holds, Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist, 15K on the nose, Roman Yossi, Michkov. Let's do it, baby. Cowboy up.
That is
Dallas,
the subtle, terrible take of the night, brought to you by Matt Moody. But it's
Dallas
good.
at Chicago.
No, thank you. Next.
Dallas scored 4 on Carolina. That should not be overstated. Harley, Heiskanen each scored. So yeah, that's fun. We like when good teams score goals on good defensive teams. Now they get a Chicago team that took Dickinson and Bedard apart. So there goes one like good defensive line. They're scratching Joey Anderson, who's like their only competent defensive player other than Dickinson. And yeah, the Dallas one fully correlated. Robertson, Hintz, Johnston, 17.1, assuming it sticks. Marchment, Sagan, Duchesne, 17.2. DJ, choose your fighter.
I mean, obviously, I was messing around with Matt Duchene's right behind me the whole time you were talking. It just is inevitable. It is Thanos snapping his finger or whatever Marvel stuff there is that Dallas, I call him Dallas 3, but we're going to call him Dallas 2. That's obviously with the role they're playing. They get there every single night. It wasn't enough on Monday to get it done, but it just every single night, 2 points, no doubter. There is a 100% certainty that if I end up on Dallas, it is Hintz, Robertson, Johnston. It's not even a question in my mind. It's cheaper than the clear power play 2 worse stack that just somehow finds a way. Like, it just doesn't matter. It's just every single slate, they outperform their expected by an absolute nuts margin. And it's just like, this isn't going to last forever. But in reality, I think I just fade Dallas because of the fact that like it's just I don't want to bang my head against the wall, so I'm probably not going to. Matt, what are you doing?
Yeah, I honestly would probably be more inclined to play Dallas 2 than Dallas 1.
Good luck, sir.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, at some point, like, results matter, and the Dallas 2 combined for over the last 10 games, 33.5 fantasy points per game. The Dallas 1 is 23 fantasy points per game. And like, yes, that's bad luck or good luck or whatever, but the underlyings are still, it's 28 to 26. Like, that second line has just been more productive. They're splitting power play time. Thomas Harley rules, so it's not like I really care about getting Miro or Harley as your unit to play with. And if Jason Dickinson's going to stick to a line, it's going to be Rupe Hintz. And so if he can, shut down a line, it's not going to be the Duchesne line, in my opinion. So that's sort of why I come down on that. Like you, I'm a little bit skeptical that like I'll actually wind up here. But like, it's totally in the ballpark for me to wind up there. And if I did play that line, I would definitely be playing Tyler Seguin. His underlying profile looks incredible. Duchesne, not so much, and Marchment's looking fine. But Sagan's like genuinely doing what's the word for repeatable. Yeah, there's a better word, but I my brain's mush. So that's where I'm going on Dallas. Chicago.
Boston could really use a guy like that on their team. Anyways, Chicago. Tyler Seguin.
Boston. Yes. Tyler Seguin. I thought I actually said Brian Donato somewhere, and that was
him too.
But that
too, use him too. Yeah.
What about Taylor Hall?
They could maybe not him.
Hold on, Craig Smith, Pat Maroon. Wait a second. Wait,
is this the Boston Bruins game? Connor Murphy sounds like he played for the Boston Bruins. Tyler Bertuzzi.
My mind is blown. Did half of the Chicago roster play for Boston like in the last 3 years?
Nick Foligno? Nick Foligno? Anybody?
What the fuck? How is Chicago bad? They have all of the players that made Boston good.
Yeah, these are it wasn't Patrice Bergeron. It was always Nick Foligno. Oh my god. And Pat Maroon. Yeah, that is actually funny. Like they just keep coming. Okay, yeah, but let's focus in for a second. So
are you playing Dropkick Murphy on defense?
Obviously not. I mean, obviously I'm just not playing Chicago. I mean, I went over in detail that I just will not stack against Dallas. I'm not changing it for freaking Chicago in the absolute blender of all blenders in legitimate goofy land. I get that Bertuzzi, Donato, Teravainen is all correlated. Like, these guys are bad. This team is bad. I've been on the Chicago is bad. And now not only are they bad, but they're boring. They're boring and bad. Yeah. And Bedard isn't doing anything. And I'm completely and totally unequivocally out on this game. Chicago. I will at least give Dallas a couple looks, but probably end up just out on this game at all.
They've even managed to break Alec Martinez, the guy who like gets blocks and fantasy points.
He's broken. He's
he's been injured. He's old. But how do you not stand? How do you not stand in front of $5 a night on this team? It makes no sense. So yeah, just nothing.
Because he's sick of being injured. He's just collecting a paycheck. Like, the guy blocked 400,000 pucks in the NHL from NHL players, and now he's just done. Like, this team is bad. Like, I get it. Just take your paycheck and enjoy your final seasons. I get it. Like, that's just what's happening here. This team is lifeless.
Their best line is Maroon, Reichel, Smith, and it's not even close. So 8K.
Because Reichel's good, and they don't want to play him. Like, it's team is a mess. You fire everybody. I don't know. Like, Reichel had 30 fantasy points last time out against Philly. They played him for 12 minutes. Like, what are you doing? Okay, yeah, but I could go on all night. I get very mad about Chicago. Fire everybody, please.
Vegas, Colorado. What do we have on the money line here? I'm very interested.
Highest total. You want to take a guess on the money line?
No, because I don't know if it's pricing in Pietrangelo or not. So tell me, and I'll tell you what I think it's guessing.
Okay, Colorado's minus 155.
Okay.
Plus 130 Vegas. I wasn't shocked, but I thought it'd be a little bit closer maybe with how bad Colorado. Colorado's just been so hit or miss. That's just I mean, both teams. It's the highest total, like 6.5 minus 118 on the over. Like,
I definitely
gotta consider this game.
Yeah, I would say Colorado minus 180 or so would be assuming William Karlsson doesn't return. The Karlssons had a newborn, so expecting Karlsson back. The game's in Colorado, so much closer to home than Philly. Or an East Coast travel would be, so no problems there. No news on Pietrangelo. Assuming Mark Stone is basically week to week until further notice, but Vegas still has some news left. The Cal Burke thing kind of turned into Dorofiev back on that top line. Kind of didn't. Hard to tell. But ultimately, it's a Jack Eichel show. He was awesome. Ivan Barbashev's price is returning back to normal slowly. It's not great. I'm not excited by it. But if you're playing Eichel, instead of paying $5K for Barbashev, now it's $4,300. He had a goal and an assist. He was the constant lineman of Eichel. Hit 20 minutes for the first time in weeks. Barbashev did. So I at least think that you could take a look at Barbashev to go with Eichel. But if Pietrangelo misses, Theodore's now been priced up to 6,100. A bit tougher pill to swallow than 5,400, I'll be honest. So Theodore's fine, Eichel's fine, but maybe not the matchup for me to be all in on Vegas. But keep an eye on the news here because it could certainly come in any variety between all their out players.
Yeah, I was just trying to take a look at the last game that the Henderson Silver Knights played. Did Olofsson play? This is last season. Good start.
You're right around it.
I was like, okay, let's go to stats. Let's just look up Olofsson's on their stats page. And if it goes to last season, nothing's loading. This is last season. How was it? I want this season. I quit.
You're just so bad at this. How do you function in society?
I don't.
Well,
I literally don't. Okay. Because he was down with Henderson on a conditional stint. I just wondered if he'd played yet, because you'd think if he played a couple games.
Yeah, it does not look like.
I don't think he's played. Yeah, I don't think he's played. Okay. Just wondering.
I actually don't know if when players go on conditioning stints, do they just practice with the team? Because like Vegas was on a road trip, they weren't practicing. Was he just down to the practice? Like maybe that's a thing.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
I don't know.
But anyway,
it could be a weird thing. Like I just keep thinking like Olofsson should be close. It sounds like he's close. So keep an eye on that as well, because like he could go right back into Burke's spot. He could be right back on that top power play.
You're right.
Definitely keep it in mind. And I mean, this game again, highest total. Vegas is, I don't think, going to see a ton of ownership, but I also really think that McKinnon won't see a ton of ownership. His price just has not reflected his play, which has been just a lot worse in fantasy circles. Like it's still fantastic in the grand scheme of things, but 9.9K, you should be expecting a lot more than 5.8 shot attempts per game over the last 10. The expected goals numbers also not great. Like he's just not been Nathan McKinnon at all. Mikko Rantanen's been Mikko Rantanen, and McKinnon has not been McKinnon. So if you're going to play this game, I think you definitely go through Rantanen and Makar.
The question here is if Jonathan Drouin plays, because he missed last game.
Yeah, he missed. Yep.
He was a very late scratch. I don't know. That sounds more ominous because I don't think it was illness. I could be wrong. Again, there's 30 fucking teams playing. I don't have everything cataloged here, but I think it was an actual like lower or upper body injury, which is more concerning to me. So if Drouin misses, they did go Lehkonen, McKinnon, Rantanen at least to start. Then they got absolutely torched. So who knows? Things might have shifted. I don't know. But a fully correlated top line would be pretty cool because obviously Drouin out meant Lehkonen was on the top power play as well. But if something like Nichushkin slides up there, or something to that effect, just keep an eye on it because Nichushkin's price is falling. Of course, if Drouin's playing, his price is 3,200. Very good there. So the news is going to be meaningful, but yeah, whether you stack around Rantanen or McKinnon or Makar doesn't really matter to me. I'm mostly interested in the statuses of Drouin, of William Karlsson, and of Alex Pietrangelo. And if things break right, you can look at a game stack. If things don't break right, maybe it's a bit more defensive in nature or competent defensively. But yeah, a lot of moving parts here as well. But at least we know for Colorado who their top six will be.
Let's get to the final game of the night. If you're ready, it is
well, there are still several more games. There are 3 more.
Oh my God, there are still 3 more games. Holy crap. Let's get to the final 3 games of the night. We start with probably the one that I'm the least interested in, the most broken team in the NHL, the LA Kings, after giving up a touchdown to the San Jose Sharks on 1.4 expected goals. You'll never guess who I picked up in fantasy to start.
It's goalies. Yeah. Rittich. Yeah. Congrats.
I picked up Rittich and he gave up a touchdown to the San Jose Sharks on 0. Will the LA Kings blow it up? I don't know. No. I mean, I've changed the line.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will. They will change the lines.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, this game I was not going to play. Just you talk about Winnipeg for a second. They're fine. Yeah. Maybe play them, maybe don't. I probably won't.
I think Yeah, I'm not playing Winnipeg. We saw them get torched by Minnesota and just get hellebucked their way to a victory, which will happen. But kind of feel a little vindicated at well, their expected goals against was the third worst on the season so far. Their shots against was the worst so far in their first game without Dylan Sandberg due to broken foot. Hayden Fleury sliding into the top four did not look good. Heinola did not play, and then Kyle Miller, third pair defenseman. Like that's just a big loss for this team to try to cover up. And sure, LA's not the team that's gonna torch everything and just go coast to coast on you and really make your defense look silly. Um, but I think it's something to monitor going forward. Like we have one game sample size, but it matches what exactly I thought might happen. So like I'm very intrigued by the idea. Um, LA is just too good defensively for me to pay these prices on Winnipeg. So moving on to the LA side, I think it's time Brant Clark gets back on the top power play. Their power play looks like a joke, and Brant Clark is clearly one of the best defenseman distributors on the power play in the NHL. So like, I mean, Jim Hiller should be fired for that. Like, but
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, the rest of the team is playing fine. They look good at 5-on-5. They're just getting goalied because they have David Riddick and Eric Portillo because Darcy Kemper can't stay healthy to save his life. It's unfortunate. I'm expecting these lines to change to Fogle, Kopitar, Kempe. Maybe LA2 even changes. They were a -3, and obviously Kevin Fiala is the ire of many Jim Hiller type rages. And then Tanner Jeannot, Byfield, Laferriere. Not interested in any of these stacks, but like Brant Clark on the power play, if that's confirmed as a one-off, I think makes a lot of sense. He blocks, he shoots, and he's very expensive. So like if you find the room for him, kind of an elite way to get like a 1% guy, you could literally score 30 without necessarily dragging anyone with him, which is what I like. So yeah, keeping an eye out for that.
Yep, 5.5 over under. It's a low total. No one's going to play it. I think it's fancy play syndrome to go there myself. We see a rematch of what we saw just a couple of days ago. Anaheim going to Seattle. I could just look where it was last time.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's a home and home.
It's a home and home. Yeah. I mean, this is certainly a game. This is certainly going to get played. There's two hockey teams involved. They're both have a lot of pieces that are cheap and they're punts. And we've talked about a million punts. I don't think I'm going to Anaheim. It's different. I know I saw your cat. Hi, good to see you. Good evening, Cat. I'm happy that you're here now to say hi. This game was a 2 expected goals to a 1.9 expected goal, a 3-2 final. McCann at the post 3 times, which I thought was funny. But there's a lot of value here, and I think people are going to go right back to it. But I actually like other value more. Sprong, after we went over how he's getting minutes and he's seeing time on ice, got 12 minutes. Bjorkstrand got 12 minutes. And I mean, Seattle's just still an absolute joke. They're nothing's actually better. There's still just random nonsense. Play Stevenson 20 minutes and move on. And I think Cronin's actually the worst coach in the NHL. So I'm good. Enjoy this game if you want to play it.
How are you going to find 14 minutes for Shane Wright if you're not playing Daniel Sprong for 12? Like, it's just math, sir. Like, how do you it's the fucking tweet about, I'm spending $10 on gas and $100 on groceries and $45,000 on losing on DraftKings. Someone help me. My family's dying. But it's just Chandler Stevenson minutes in the Seattle Kraken.
Tanev 16, one of the highest, 5-on-5 minutes.
I mean,
scored.
they were defending a lead, and Brandon Tanev's their best defensive forward, so I at least give him that. But Chandler Stevenson just sucks. Like, they think he's their defensive ace, but he's not. He just sucks. The only thing of note in this game is that Anaheim lost Leo Carlson due to what looks like a pretty nasty concussion. He looked a little wobbly, so hoping for the best for him. But that means Ryan Strome, Vetrano, Terry is perfectly correlated on the top power play with Olin Zellweger. That full 4-man stack is going to cost you a shade under 19,000. McTavish returned. He will slide into the top 6 with Killorn and Trevor Zegras, which leaves Cutter with his friends Brett Leeson and Isaac Lundestrom. Brett Leeson still remains genuinely good, but Seattle's like the one matchup where you don't want to do it because they're a slow tempo team and they're a deep team. So it's not like getting third or fourth line matchups matters much against Seattle. So
Yeah,
on the Seattle. Oh, okay.
yeah,
Do you ever...
they gave Cutter a try up with McTavish and Leeson, but I guess that did not stick.
Well,
practice, so.
they had McTavish there because he returned. And then when Carlson got hurt, you had to move McTavish up is what happened.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, again, I think a lot of people are going to find punts here because there's a ton of cheap options and there's decent correlation. And there's, I mean, Schwartz, Stevenson, Sprong again. People are going to just go right back to it. And like, I just think there's better options on the table. Like, this is a boring game with boring teams, with badly coached teams that don't want fun. I just don't think there's any reason to do it. So let everyone else do it. If it works, it works. If it fits, it ships. I'm just not doing it. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
All right. Yeah, you covered everything. Just Schwartz, Stevenson, Sprong is fully correlated. They are 10,000. But yeah, the minutes on Sprong are a concern when Seattle's winning, and they should win and hoping it's Anaheim. Moving on to Ottawa, San Jose. Final game. Hallelujah. We've done it. Not expecting any changes to the Ottawa lines based on them winning their most recent game. They head into San Jose. Adam Gaudette is 2,900 with a power play job alongside Brady and Stützle at 5-on-5. That top line checks in at 18,000. A Brady Tkachuk top line against San Jose for 18,000. Hamina. Seems fine. Seems pretty good, actually, if you will. What do you think about this Ottawa side?
Yeah, start there, of course. I was wondering, did I miss something? I mean, Shabbat's expected to play, but he only played 13, 12 and a half.
He went off for repairs and came back.
Okay, and then Zub out, broke his foot blocking a shot. Just want to mention that quickly. Yeah, Sanderson, I thought of 30 minutes, and I was like, holy crap. Yeah. But it was all of the power play run in the world. I think if you're going to go all the way in, I think you could do worse than playing Jake Sanderson.
It's a Samson jersey, and this is my cat named Samson. So there you go, Mike.
Yeah, back in the day, we loved Sam Reinhart. We still do to this day. But the Jake Sanderson thing, like, he's getting assists again. He's shooting a little bit. He hasn't put up any monster scores, but the minutes are there. The pedigree's there. If you're going all the way on Ottawa, I say you just jam it in there. Shabbat as well has been very good, and it's good to know that it's probably nothing, and Sanderson's minutes should come down a little bit for Shabbat being back. But they are missing one of their defensemen that do eat a lot of minutes, meaning that, you know, Hamonic and Jensen are going to see time, but how much time? And everyone else, like, you know, Bernard Docker and stuff just won't. So I just think there's enough there for me to say, like, there's a really good punt to make that work. If Ottawa actually does Giga Smash, I'd probably include one of those defensemen.
Yeah, your Josh Norris revenge game. He only has 2 career games against the San Jose Sharks, but he scored and has 6 shots. So, hey, maybe he can do that here for 4,200. But yeah, Batherson, Giroux, Norris is 13.3 and could also be owned as well. They're quite good. And Giroux actually replaced Norris on the 5-on-3 power play. They were doing some garbage. They were doing the right thing in that they did like the behind the net passing stuff. But then they just, you know, they don't have a Kirill Kaprizov to like tuck the puck in. They just have the Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle to, you know, try to score, and that usually doesn't go well. So
Shane Pinto,
have fun with that.
They have a Reinhardt.
Jose.
Okay.
They do now have a Reinhardt. Cole Reinhardt scored. Okay. The San Jose news of note is twofold. They sent down Askarov, so Vanacek, Blackwood should both be good to go. They also were without Granlund, and his injury, he was, quote, getting reevaluated today, meaning, you know, we didn't see an update there, but doesn't sound like he's like definitely back on Wednesday. And interesting that made San Jose more fun. Like, it made them put their good players together. Eklund, Celebrini, Zetterlund. It's an actual fun top line.
Yep.
Cunnin, Wenberg, Toffoli is obviously less fun, but like that top line checks in at 12.8. Gets 2 guys on the top power play plus Sletterland. If Granlund misses, gonna have a hard time not at least considering Celebrini and Eklund. Celebrini just looks very good. He does not the games played and whatnot. Maybe there's some regression to hit, but through his first 9 games or whatever, he truly does look like a star already.
Yeah, no red flags on my end. He's everything
Okay.
and more, but he beat the LA Kings. Let's get out of here before
We
gets
did it.
to midnight.
15 games, only 90 minutes. We've gone
not that
longer
bad.
than this. We've gone longer than this on 8 game slates before. So good job by us. What are your top stacks guarantee goals?
God, I mean, there's so many freaking games. I'm trying to even remember what I said at this point. I like a lot of things. I think I'm just going to start with Columbus 1. I really don't know if it's going to be Donkey Chalk for no good reason, because I feel like I'm just inevitably going to find Donkey Chalk on every single slate, but I'm going to hope it's not. Give me Monahan, give me Voronkov, give me Marchenko, and give me Werenski. I do think that I will be overstacking on this slate because I feel like people will have a tendency not to. I think I go all the way in. We did get a question earlier about single entry stuff as well. I don't think it makes a big difference. Like if you're playing it in whatever contest, like I doubt it matters that much, but I don't think there's anything wrong with overstacking in single entry stuff either. Like do that. I think that 4-man is going to be, I think it's really strong, mid-tier stack that, again, I hope people don't play because they want to try to get some of these studs in these high end games, but we'll see.
All right, you took Columbus. I'm gonna go with Nashville 1. Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Gus Nyquist. Obviously, Yossi makes sense to pair with that as well, but yeah, 15K will not deter me from playing Nashville against Philly.
Yeah, I get that for sure. Again, seems like a very fun, cromulent build. I am stalling because I feel like there's nothing else I truly love, and there's 15 games. You know what? Honestly, I'll go with that Ottawa 1. That Stutzel, Brady, Gaudette, and Sanderson. I think that's probably where I end up. Not Nashville. San Jose is very bad defensively, and like being more fun is a good thing for the entire game to be more fun. And having players that can actually score goals is going to help to keep Ottawa scoring goals.
All right, I will go Carolina 2. That's the Jarvis, Drury, Svechnikov line. Let's just keep picking on these Rangers until they do something really stupid, like trading, actually trading Chris Kreider would be hilariously funny if they actually did that, because like they're in their cup window and he's like actually fine. He's not the problem. It's the Benajad and Trouba who suck out loud. So let's just keep targeting the Rangers. They are truly one of the worst defensive teams, over the last little stretch. And Carolina just going to the mat with another cup contender. I think they take this one as well in an up-tempo fun game.
I like it. Guarantee goals. We went 1-4. Actually, I have no idea. Did Fiala score one of the 2 goals? I didn't even look.
He did not. I promise you.
Okay. And I don't believe Brock Nelson scored either. Honestly, don't think I looked.
He did not.
But he had an assist. Yeah, he had an assist on that 1 goal, but that doesn't count for guarantee goals. Jarvis scored, no one else. Matt, I will let you go first. Who you got?
Tyler Seguin, 6,100.
Wow. Seguin, 6,100. Jam it in there. That is interesting. There's no way you're in. I'm thinking Svechnikov again. I hate myself. But honestly, I think Marty Necas is the real deal. And he's, maybe one of the more underrated setup men in the league. Like, I know the points have been crazy, but like the assist number is something special. Like, I'm wondering if that correlation isn't another one that I really, really want to take advantage of. Don't know how chalky it'll be, but I think Svechnikov is in a really good spot to find a goal. Found one against Dallas, finds one again, gets hot. The goals are starting to pour in for Mr. Svechnikov.
All right, I'm going to go with Kent Johnson on the other side of your Columbus stack, but the power play one obviously there for him. He came back in 2 games, has 9 shot attempts, 4 points, and 2 goals. So even though there's only 3 shots on goal, I think Kent Johnson lights the lamp for us as he continues to pile up shot attempts against the decrepit Montreal defense.
I knew I was going to sneeze. I was trying to hold on, but it just wasn't going to happen. I don't know where Sharangovich is. Is he too
42?
I don't even. I mean, that's what I have. I thought he was. Oh, he's 4. Yeah,
4.
give me Sharangovich. I mean, I'd be 4 in a row. Jesus Christ, who cares? I don't care. 4 in a row. Sometimes good players start scoring and they just don't stop.
Like Anthony Cirelli, who's on a 7-game goal streak right now.
But Sharangovich is actually good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, honestly, there's a lot of guys in that range I like that 4,200 range, but yeah.
All right,
I think
that's good.
Probably my favorite.
Thank you all for enduring this with us. DJ, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I just have a good Thanksgiving. Or in Canada, have a good, I don't know,
football Thursday.
Football's on at noon or whatever. Yeah, I'll be traveling a bit, see some families and friends. So no podcast. I'm gonna bring my laptop, try to get out a little bit of content here or there, but not gonna be a ton. Enjoy the time. Have a beer and think about some of my bets that missed by one leg, as I will be as well.
Yeah. If you are in the Moinescape Pod Discord, just check out the Politics and Other Shenanigans channel if you could. Paul Newman, one of the greatest members of our community here, went through a bit of a rough time, and it's a tough time of year with the holidays and the cold weather and whatnot. He posted a GoFundMe, and if you are feeling generous, check that out. He also dropped his PayPal as well. So just advertising that on his behalf. He's a great guy, and wishing the best for him, and hopefully they get through this unscathed. So those Indiana winters are tough, and they're going to get tougher as the time goes. So in any case, if you made it through 95 minutes of this podcast, you're maybe the sort of person who might be generous enough to chip in there. So thank you all for listening to us. Have a great Thanksgiving to our American compatriots. And if we are, we should talk to you again on Tuesday. I've not looked at the Monday, Tuesday, like what next week looks like, but expecting to be back in your ears on Tuesday. Until then, hop in the Discord, and we will still be discussing pretty much every slate out there. I will be around.
I'll tweet out my recap. I want a little more time to really suss out all my thoughts for 15 games. I know everyone's probably waiting right now on pins and needles for my slate recap. I do every time. I'll give a tweet. I'll have a tweet for everyone. I think it's better in writing, so you can
thank God
look at it later.
Okay. Yeah, I am on Twitter at Fake Moods. DJ's at DJ_Mitchell94. And yes, DJ is not getting after it. I think you're getting
there's no one that lives in our hometown anymore. I'm going home, and I texted a few people to see if they wanted to like do something, and no one's gonna be there. I am gonna just hang out with my family, and I don't know. Yeah,
you're gonna watch Dateline with your mom. I know.
Hopefully.
Alrighty, thank you all for hanging out. Best of luck on this Wednesday slate. From Doug, from DJ, from myself, let's go to bed. Have a great Wednesday slate, everybody, and we will see ya.